Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us takes, give us comments, or simply just join in on a podcast. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this podcast. Now, let's get to the show. And as always, Rip City, baby.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Lift off and the clock has started.
What is going on, Rip City? This is a special edition, first of its kind, episode 33 of the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. I got Fawad here with me and a plethora of other people that are going to call in a little bit and give us their takes, their opinions, their feelings towards the craziness that happened today. So, for those of you living under a rock that haven't heard yet, there was a trade that happened today. I truly don't really I'm still a little mind blown by what happened. We ended up trading Norman Powell, Robert Covington to the Clippers. It pains me to say what we traded. I mean, I don't know about you, Fawad, but it hurts to say what we traded them for.
Not a good feeling.
Go ahead. I can't even say it with a straight face. So you go ahead and you say if you can remember off the top of your head who's all there. If not, I got you.
Yeah. So we traded away Norman Powell and Robert Covington, and in return we got Eric Bledsoe, Justise Winslow, Keon Johnson, and I believe a 2025 second round pick from Detroit.
Championship, here we come. So, with that being said, just go for it, Fawad. Let me know how you're feeling.
I hated this trade so much. There's pretty much nothing I like about it. Robert Covington, everyone knows we paid 2 first-round picks. I don't think anyone is expecting 2 first rounds back when we shipped him out, and it's pretty obvious that we were gonna trade him at the deadline. But 1 first-round pick from a contending team like Utah would have been best case scenario. But even I would have been fine with 2 second-round picks. Whatever. I understand his value is not that high. I was underwhelmed by if it was just him in the trade, I think that's what I would have been satisfied with. But then throwing in Norman Powell, who's been arguably our best player this year when you factor in injuries and everything, super consistent. He's scoring 20 points a game. He can play defense. He's on a good contract, and then we ship him out for essentially nothing. Eric Bledsoe, we're not keeping him beyond the season. We're gonna probably not even gonna flip him at the deadline. We're just gonna cut him in the off season and take his $4 million hit next year. Justise Winslow, he plays 20 games a season, and I don't think he's that good anyways. I've heard he's been okay with the Clippers this year, defensively, but I think even now his offense is still not that good. Keon Johnson is supposedly the highlight of this return package. I honestly don't know much about him. I do know that he's, I think, 19, turning 20 in a couple weeks. He's listed as 6'5", but I've been told he seems shorter than that, just like Dame seems shorter than 6'3". And, that's basically all I know about him. And then, of course, a 2025 second-round pick is probably not going to do much for us at all.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you go on if you have more, please.
In terms of talent, we didn't get anything back for this year. Even in the future, I don't see that panning out. Maybe Keon Johnson turns into something, but right now he's not doing too well. Of course, he's just a rookie though, so it's expected. We got out of the luxury tax, which I can assume is the main reason for this deal, and it saves us a little bit of money next year, but it's not as significant as some people, think it is. So overall, just not even whelmed. I'm very underwhelmed. I'm mad.
Yeah, let's backtrack a little bit. For me, I'm at work. The alert comes out that we trade Norman Powell and Robert Covington. From that moment on, it was before lunch. I think it was like 11, maybe 10:30. After that, my mind was toast. I was no longer at work mentally. I was gone. I just could not stop thinking about that. Reading everyone's comments, reading everyone's reactions. I mean, you sit there and you think what we gave up to get Norman Powell, what we gave up to get Robert Covington. And like we talked about in previous podcasts, at least for me, I felt Norman Powell was our best bet at the 2 if we were wanting to make a championship run with Lillard. The way they made this trade, it feels to me like they're not trying to make a championship run. I don't know. I mean, I truly, I get that they're trying to get out of the tax. I get that Jody Allen cares so much about saving money, even though she's a bajillionaire and has the most money, that anyone could ever need. And that, to her, saving money is what matters. I mean, it blows my mind. Paul Allen, he was always the type that was like, whatever it takes, let's do it. And it sucks to have the exact opposite of that. But like you said, we're probably not going to have Bledsoe. A lot of people think that we're going to end up just shipping him off this year anyways. But by next year, I don't foresee us having him. They're going to just take that. What is it, like a 3.9 cap hit? Is that what it is?
Yeah. 3.9.
Take that. Let it sit on our books for a while and it'll be gone and we'll be done with it. Really, to me, the only thing that we did this trade for was the rookie, Keon Johnson, right? That was his name?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's our plan, if we're just planning for the future 5 years from now, then why do we have Dame still? Like, I feel so bad for him. It like there's quotes that he came out and he supported this trade. How the hell? Unless he knows something that we don't know, unless he knows that he talked to some player and they're gonna come here. How do you support this?
I mean, Steve Ballmer probably sent him like 10% of Microsoft or something. I don't know. It's the only way I can see him signing off.
But think how much money he's made. He doesn't need 10%. Oh, well, then again, 10% is a lot for Microsoft. But anyways, Lillard wants to win a championship. The fans want to win a championship. There's been some crazy stuff in Reddit lately. I mean, we could ramble for hours about the stuff we've seen on Reddit the past couple weeks, couple days especially. But it's so frustrating to give away what we had and not get good value. And we've made these comments before. We want to trade CJ, but we don't want to trade CJ just to trade CJ. We want to get some kind of value back, and I truly feel like we got no value back. I mean, for the love of God, we traded Norman Powell is top 10 shooting guard, I think, in the NBA. Super consistent. Super consistent. Always been consistent for the last 4 years. He's not good enough for a first-round pick. Just one. One, not two, like we sent for Robert Covington. He's not good for one. How is that? And then let's throw Robert Covington in on top of that. How are those two people not good for one first-round pick? Like it makes no sense. I mean, I get that they want to get under the tax. I get that.
There were so many other ways to get under the tax. We could have traded Covington to, so many different teams who had guys in like the 10 range, 10, 11 million, and maybe we throw in like Covington and Snell. That's all we needed to get out of the tax. It was not, we did not need to send Norm out to get under the tax. If we were going to send him out, it should have been for an upgrade at the forward position, not a young guard. Best player,
you're spot on. They said that they wanted to. Let me find it just real quick. Let me just, because I read it, I just want to make sure I have it. So they said, essentially, Norman Powell's a very good player, and he had some. This is from Cronin himself. Norman Powell's a very good player, and he's had really good moments with us. He'll be missed. It's just about having to move that money to other positions. That's what was the motivation for this trade. unless they have, like I said, unless they know something we don't know yet, they didn't move money. They put it still in the shooting guard position.
Yeah,
I get
from what
Winslow is a small forward, but the dude's going to be playing at most 15 minutes a game.
I understood from that was that he wanted to take, future money out from Norm and just shift it to Ant. But they both should have been our two guard. The fact that we're playing Norm at 3
Yes.
was, that wasn't an issue about Norm. That was an issue about trading CJ. You don't trade Norm, like, I don't know, man. I'm just frustrated.
It doesn't make sense. I'm happy for Norm. He's going to a team that he's going to have a chance to, make a deep playoff run again. I like Norm. And they're now going to be a strong team if they get those guys back. I know it's up in the air if they do, but who cares about them? I care about us. What? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And hopefully the people that we have, they're going to be calling in here in just a second. Hopefully some of them can explain to us why they think it's a better idea. I thought maybe one or two of them at least thought it was an okay trade for us. I get the premise. I get that we're making room. One problem is we have never been a team that's got free agents ever to come to us. So make all the room you want. I mean, the year that we signed Evan Turner and, Harkless and Aminu, we had so much money to spend, and that's what we spent the money on because nobody wanted to come here. So to think that we're making these moves for free agency, it kills me. I don't want to see Dame leave. I'm afraid that's what's going to happen.
I've heard to kind of justify the trade where that, Norm's contract is 5 years, and he'll be like 32 at the end. But I feel like, one, that's probably a good thing that it's a long-term contract. He probably won't decline that much by the time he's, what did I say, 32? And right now he's playing way above 18. So I think, like, anyone arguing that he's, a negative asset at this point, I think not just fans, but there was some reporter analyst, I don't remember who it was, but they were saying that Blazers won it's justified from our end because we got off Norm's contract. Like, that doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
Okay, if we couldn't get a better offer from somewhere else, which I find incredibly unlikely, first of all, then we should just keep Norm. That was the plan, like, all along. Why are we shopping him? Even if he wants out, that's probably just because he's stuck at the 3. Force him to the 2, trade CJ. It's, that solves all our problems. I don't know. We've discussed it like a million times.
It's got to be one of two things.
It's our best, like, fit.
It's got to be one of two things. Either Dame does not want to split up CJ, like we all think should happen. It's either that, or we're just stupid. It's one of those two. and I get Dame and CJ are friends, and they're really good friends. But my God, to think that the solution to our problem right now is to get rid of Norm on a contract that is much, much, much more favorable than CJ's contract, on a player that has playing more consistently for the last 3 years. I mean, not that CJ hasn't played consistently, but both on offense and defense.
I mean,
and he's
CJ
playing out of position.
Inconsistent at times.
Yeah, well, for sure. He's been, that's for sure. It's just, my mind, there's like, if you guys could see inside my mind, there's 40 different ways I could go right now. And it's like, I can't narrow in on one topic to talk about because I'm just all over the place. So I feel disorganized and I want to say more, but in my head, I can't get the ones out that I want to say. So do you have anything you want to say before we start going to the callers?
I mean, there's so much, but I guess just one last thing that I'll say is, you know how Eric Bledsoe's contract, like we said, is only guaranteed for 3.9 mil. Sure, it really doesn't do that much for us in terms of cap space. All it does for us is it lets us sign Ant without going into the tax again. It doesn't actually open up cap space that we can use. Like, because right now, even if we don't sign Ant at all or Nurk, we're already over the cap for next year. So signing Ant, and whether we sign Nurk or not, that's a later issue. But assuming we do, we're gonna be right back. We're gonna be spending the same amount we are right now. So there's not a lot of financial flexibility. It's just like, or at least for next year, the only difference financially is that we're gonna pay less tax. That's the only difference, because either way, we're not gonna get the full MLE. We're likely gonna have to use the tax MLE next year as well. And then beyond next year, I guess there's an argument that there's more flexibility financially, but I feel like if we're trading away our best, most valuable asset, it doesn't matter how much money we have. Like you said, free agents are going to come here. Our best way is through trade. So if we can't, if our best trade asset is gone, I don't know how we're going to improve this roster.
Well, and you kind of said it perfectly. And I've seen people say this. We're doing all these trades to create flexibility to be able to go out and sign a Norman Powell type player. What the hell? We already have a Norman Powell type player, and we just got rid of him. So why would we be doing that? That makes no sense. It's like trading Michael Jordan away because he makes too much money, or you know, for whatever stupid reason you would trade him away, and they'd be like, well, now that we have the money to sign a Michael Jordan type player, we can go do that. It's just, it blows my mind. The people that said that the trade for Gary Trent for Norman Powell was a terrible trade, it blows my mind. I mean, now it was a terrible trade because we don't have Norman Powell. But it's like, Jesus, what are we doing? If we want to win, you don't trade. I don't even know. I'm getting so mad I can't even speak. You don't trade Norman Powell when he's going to be the one that fits best with Dame. Norm does not need the ball in his hands 24/7 like CJ does. I like Ant a lot, and I think he's got a high ceiling, and I have no problem with us keeping him. But even him next to Dame, those two don't fit as well together as Norm does. So
Norm is probably one of the best fits for Dame in the league out of like the
honestly,
non All-Star players.
Honestly, and it's like we got rid of him for nothing, not a first round pick. We got some money out of it. It's okay. Woo! My heart rate is going high. So, Fawad, are you good to stay, or do you need to hop out?
Yeah, I'll stay for maybe like 10 more minutes, then I'll probably have to leave.
Okay. So we are going to go to our first two callers here. We have Brady, who actually joined us from the last podcast, from the Point Nine podcast. And we also have Adam, who decided today he wanted to join us. So let me get them in here real quick. Brady, Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How about you, Adam?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. So I'm sure you guys heard us rambling there for a little bit.
Yes,
Let's go with Brady first. I think, Brady, you were kind of okay with this trade. Am I wrong?
I mean, I have a lot to unpack, and I only have a limited amount of time. So let me just go straight to it. The trade on paper is dog crap. It's not good. It doesn't look good. The reason it doesn't look good is Neil O'Shea's fault. First of all, if we didn't give up all those picks to get those players, and we didn't get the value out of them in return, so I guess it's Rocco's fault for that. But Norm played really, really well, and it's hard to see him go. But I think the most valuable part of this trade is not on paper. The most valuable thing that we get is direction and vision. Finally, they made a decision, and the decision is to go with young talent. So there's like a lot to unpack there.
Fair enough.
What I think.
Finish your thought first, though.
I will unpack what I mean by that. So Cronin says that they want to put, more money into different positions. I don't think he's talking about Norman Powell. I think he's talking about CJ. So we can't really judge this trade like in its totality until the trade deadline's over, because I believe that this trade is just the precursor for a bigger one to come. Now,
I agree.
That is that's like a Blazer fan's favorite sentence, because that's what we dealt with Neil O'Shea. Oh, he's just doing these little luxury tax trades to set something up, and then he never pulled the trigger. Well, that's because Neil O'Shea is a douche and has a huge ego and never wanted to hurt his ego, so he would never want to make a big move. He would just keep the fans going, keep the team barely afloat. But Cronin seems to have made a move to where he's going all in on Ant. And I believe what he means by that statement that he made is he's getting rid of Norm, he's getting rid of CJ, and I think that we'll see a trade for a forward. I hope. So I don't like the trade on paper because it's never good to see a player of Norm's caliber leave. But I think we're finally getting the direction that we've wanted for so many years. And that direction is we're going to go and get and bank on our young talent. And I'm never going to underestimate Damian Lillard. We all thought that we were going to be trash when our 4 starters left. But behind Damian Lillard, this team made the playoffs. So I'm not going to underestimate Dame and say, oh, this team sucks. Oh, we lost Norm. Like, this team's going to be bad. Like, Damian Lillard will come back, and Damian Lillard will be Damian Lillard. Now, that sucks because he can't do that forever, but that I'm just banking on that as a Blazer fan. Now, if we don't make a move before the trade deadline, then this trade is just trash. Like, I'll be very, very upset, but I'm not going to, like, push the envelope right now.
Go for it, Fawad.
Let's actually let Adam go first if you want to respond, and then we can come in.
Okay. Yep. Go for it, Adam. What you got?
All right. So yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm a type of guy that I don't pay a lot of attention to how the luxury tax work or how the cap works. So I don't fully understand stuff when I explain. But when I first got the notification, it was a Bleacher Report notification, and I only saw that Robert Covington was in it. So I had just deleted Twitter, and as I was re-downloading it to see the full details, I was like, okay, this is kind of confusing, but like, I'm not that upset. I was just confused. Then I opened up Twitter, and I was like, no, there's no way we traded Powell. All I've been able to imagine this afternoon is Jody Allen clutching her money, just like gleefully laughing right now. But realistically, what Brady said about direction, I appreciate, because that's something I've been stuck on for a long time. I look at teams like the Thunder, and I look at teams like the Nets, and like both of these teams have made opposite directions. One is like, we're committing to a rebuild, youth, first round picks, and the other is like, we're going to go all in and try to win a championship. And I guess with the Blazers, I don't want to know how many years it's been of where it's been like, oh, you know, like we start out slow, we come back in the middle of the season. Everyone's like, wow, we're a championship team. And then it's a first or second round exit like every single year. And when it comes to trades, it's always felt like, oh, you know, we're making these little safe trades, get under the tax, all these things that Neil did. Dame specifically this year, I feel like, has been the most outspoken about wanting to win a championship than he's ever been. Mm-hmm. At least to the public.
Yep.
Or at least indicated that. And so when they indicated that, I was like, okay, we're either going to go full into a rebuild, Dame's going to leave, the Blazers are going to say, no, we're just going to rebuild, or we're going to go all out for a championship. And this was the type of move that when I looked at it, it confused me because I was like, what direction are we going again? I understand, like, okay, maybe we're moving to the youth, but like even then, I look at this and I'm like, there had to have been a better trade for better young assets or more. So I guess I'm in a state of mind right now that if there's a trade I don't see or something happening, and if we don't get like an all-star type forward back by the end of the trade deadline, I'm going to be really upset about this trade. Again, I don't understand things all about the tax and the cap and all that. But to me, it seems to be stuck in that middle again. Are we truly going into a rebuild? If you're going into a rebuild with young assets, probably Dame should be moved. Probably. I mean, if you're going to commit to a full rebuild like the Thunder, if you're going to go into a championship team, getting rid of someone like Norman, who fits way better next to Dame than CJ, doesn't make any sense. And that's just where I'm at right now. I guess I could see an argument for more of a direction. But at this point, if the Blazers don't end up with an all-star forward, which I don't have a lot of hope for that happening by the trade deadline or by the end of the year, I will probably still be stuck here. I just want to see them make a direction, but like instead of just kind of like sliding there, I just want to see it happen. Maybe it's too quick for that.
Can I say something about that, Alex?
Go for it.
So something people are saying is there had to be a better trade out there, which there is, but then I look at Philadelphia's situation and how many wonderful trades has to be knocking on, I think his name's Daryl Morey's door, and he like rejects them all. So there are trades out there, but some people don't want those. And like, we have to be realistic. Cronin is a brand new GM. He wants to make it in the league. What a dream job to just be handed a GM position. I don't think he's going to just take the first trade that walks through his door. I think he's going to shop. Maybe people just didn't want the assets. Robert Covington wasn't a great asset. Look at his performance in Portland. And Norman Powell, his play was fantastic, but we had to be realistic. Maybe there wasn't a better trade out there. I would just be shocked if he just threw out the first trade and was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Like he wants to make a name for himself in this league.
Yeah, and Adam, before Fawad, I let you go, I just want to say something real quick. Adam, I 100% agree. It feels to me like they did kind of tell us the direction they're going. Like, okay, we are going to kind of rebuild. But like you said, and we've said it in previous podcasts, I just want them to go and let us know, like, tell us this is what we're doing. And like you said, it seemed like they kind of dipped their toes in the water and were like, hey guys, we're gonna be rebuilding a little bit. I either just jump in or let's go the other way. Go for it, Fawad. Break it down.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with Adam here on, most of the things. I see less direction than before because, first of all, if we're getting young talent, that would be one thing, but we didn't get any young talent. We got one young guy who's extremely raw, and by the time if he ever even develops, it's going to be way past Dame's prime is over. So if we're, theoretically getting young talent, we should, like one of you guys said, we should probably move on from Dame then, if that's the decision. And if we want to continue building around Dame, why are we trading Norm? And then I do agree that it's important to wait until the deadline, but at the same time,
Yes.
so should have Cronin. The values probably would have increased at the deadline when other teams are more desperate. It's possible the offers weren't there at this time, but there might have been more at the deadline. And then the last thing about that is that, let's say the value wasn't there at all and it wouldn't be there at the deadline. That means there's nothing out there for CJ because CJ's older, much worse contract, and he's less, depending on the team, I guess, he's less of a, I don't know how to explain it. Like he's got to be the main guy on the team, whereas Norm fits like everywhere. So if this is the best we could get from Norm, then I think there's no chance we're getting not even an all-star small forward. We're not getting anything of value in return for CJ. We would have to pay to get rid of CJ if that's the case. So I don't see the. I'm gonna wait until the deadline, but I'm not expecting anything to happen because if this is the situation, then just nothing better is gonna happen later on.
Yeah, I mean we're in for a bumpy ride, I think. Brady, Adam, both of you guys, thanks for hopping in and giving us your takes on it. I'm sorry it's short. If we could sit here and spend all night talking about it, no one wants to listen to a 4-hour podcast. I appreciate both of you guys hopping in. I hope you guys have a good night. Other than that, thanks for joining, and hopefully we can talk to you in a little bit. So we have John here. John joined in on the call-in show here. That's what we're going to call it. So, John, how does this trade make you feel? Or, in general, just rant, rave, do whatever you want. Just go for it. The floor is yours. The mic's yours. Go for it.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys, for having me. My first reaction when I saw the Woj tweet was definitely negative. It was like, that's it? With Norm's name being in there, I was thinking we were going to get more. And so definitely my initial reaction was disappointed, a little surprised that Norm and Rocco got paired together, thinking those would be separate trades originally. But I think as I've had time to kind of process it and also listen to a few other people kind of break it down, it's really just a financial move, I think, to clear the books for Anthony. So that's the one positive that I think I'm now taking away from it, is this is a clear signal that we need to make room to pay Anthony Simons next season. And there was no way they were going to do that if they had Dame, CJ, and Norm on the books. Sure. So it's like, it's really hard to trade a guy that you just signed to a 5-year deal. I think that's what we saw today is like the market just nobody wants to take on that long of a contract because like I think the average GM doesn't even make it much longer than 5 years in their job, you know? So it's like you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody take a guy like Norm, even though he's talented, when he has so much time left on his contract. So like I think this deal really boils down to let's take the first person that will totally get Norm's contract off our books without us having to give up any draft picks or young player, and then that signals okay we're definitely tanking this year and we're making room so that we can give Anthony Simons a probably like $18 to $20 million contract, I think, like kind of in the range that Norm was at, and you're just swapping those two contracts out essentially next year. And then I was also like a little bit encouraged when I saw that the Eric Bledsoe guaranteed money for next year is only $3.9 million. So my guess is that they will just they'll waive him and he'll be another Andrew Nicholson on the books where you just see this line item for Eric Bledsoe and he doesn't have a single game as a Blazer. That seems to be the popular thing for this Blazers front office to do. And so, $3.9 million next year for him, $4 million next year for Winslow, who will probably play, but like is not going to take minutes away from Nasir next year. I would hope not. Yeah, I guess like big takeaway was I was disappointed that they couldn't get more, but I see kind of the financial reason of why they did this, and we have to like kind of just look at this from that financial cap room lens of what is the budget look like for Anthony to fit in next year, and kind of less from a like basketball and on-court product lens. And I know that can be like definitely I tweeted this earlier, but like the return was disappointing from a basketball standpoint, and it was basically a financial move. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
So do you feel like we could have got something better for this trade, or do you think this was about what we could have expected?
I feel like they could have gotten a little bit more if they traded these two guys independently. So if you went out and said, hey, Utah, we know that Joe Ingles just got injured for the season, dangle Rocco in front of them, because I think Rocco would have been a really good fit in Utah.
Yes.
I think you could have gotten like 2 seconds or maybe like a first that's protected way out in the future. Then you have to look at like what would Norm get if that was just in a vacuum, and I feel like maybe this was just the reality that you would have having to give up something else for Norm to get completely off of his contract. And so you miss out on that deal that you would have gotten for Rocco by pairing Norm and Rocco together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. For me, it's crazy to think what we've given up to get Norm, what we gave up to get Rocco, and then it's like we don't get a first round pick for both of those combined. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
I hate it.
No, I think it's really painful looking at it from that lens. I'm trying to give Cronin the benefit of the doubt because they were in a really tough spot when what Neil Olshey put them into. And it's kind of like they dug this really big grave. I feel like this move was kind of Cronin starting to dig his way out, and it's like it's ugly and it doesn't feel good as a fan. Like they are a little bit better off just in terms of like clearing salary from the hole that they were in already. But I definitely agree that like now you've missed out on Gary Trent and 2 first-round picks, and you don't really have anything to show for it.
Exactly. Fuad, do you have anything you wanna toss out?
I just feel like with the money thing, there's two parts to it. One is getting out of the tax this year, and the other one, like you said, making money for Ant, and I guess clearing the long term as well. Getting out of the tax this year was not an issue at all. There were like 100 different ways to do it, and we didn't need to involve Norm at all, which is what frustrates me. Over the course of the day, the last few hours, I've come to terms with the fact that Covington's value is not as high as we thought. I think like a second is probably that's probably what seems like his value was, um, based on what I've heard like some reporters say too. But Norm, I get that he'll be what like 32 at the end of the contract, but 18 is not that bad, especially for how he's playing right now. I feel like he's playing like he's worth like 25. So it just I don't I'm struggling to understand how we got such little return. The return is basically what what Covington is worth. We basically threw in Norm for free from the way I'm seeing it. But then, making money for Ant is understandable, but at the same time, I feel like if we were able to get rid of CJ instead of Norm, that accomplishes the same thing. And CJ's older and has a worse contract, and Norm is probably the better, or he is the better fit anyways. So I just didn't understand including Norm, unless like he was begging to go there and we just did right by him or something like that. But that's the only way I'm justifying it in my head.
So
I think
go for it, John.
I was just gonna say I think the pessimistic side of me, like if this is what they got for Norm to get off his contract, does that mean that there was nothing for CJ? Like was
good point.
I hope that there's something in the next week. I really do, but there's a possibility that they wanted to move CJ. They knew they had to move CJ or Norm, like no questions about it, and this was the best that they could do because nobody stepped up to the plate for CJ. See, that's like my worst case reality.
It's possible. That's something I've thought about as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. So, John, before we get you out of here, first off, I want to say thanks for coming in and doing this, kind of on the, no notice, just showing up and doing it. So, first off, thanks for doing that. But before we get you out of here, what do you see this team the next year, the next couple years? What do you see for this team? Do you see us still trying to make a run for the championship, or do you see us just getting ready to rebuild?
That's a really good question. I think, if you ask me in a week, it will probably be a little bit of a different answer, but
sure.
I think now I'm starting to think that they're gonna be like a 6th, 7th, 8th seed the next couple of years. Obviously not this season, but
sure.
I don't really see a way for them to get into contention really quickly. I think you're looking at a starting lineup next year, most likely of Dame, Ant, Nas, Nurk, and then like insert some forward into that lineup, and that's not a contender, but that's good enough to get into the playoffs probably. And yeah, it's like it all comes down to ownership, and it was the directive to Cronin, hey, let's just keep doing this 8th seed in the playoff thing. And we make a couple $1 million, and then we sell the team in 2025, and like ownership's happy. Cronin doesn't really have any power to like overrule that directive. That's kind of my thought of might be going on behind the scenes.
Well,
then it's like,
actually, no. Finish it up.
I was gonna say, like, is Dame? Obviously, Dame's involved in these talks. I think the reporters that follow the team closely have said like Dame and Cronin are seen talking all the time. So I have to think that Cronin is involving him in these conversations. And I wonder if Dame's loyalty is almost like to a fault, where he's just like he's okay with this kind of shaky plan to get back into the playoffs, and even if the most likely scenario is a return to the first round.
That was what I was going to ask you anyway, so yeah, you answered my question.
I mean, I know that every friend that I have that's not a Blazers fan that follows the NBA, they look at us and they're like, why are you guys holding on to Dame? And not in a way of like, oh, Dame should go to New York or Dame should go to LA, but just like it doesn't make sense to them, like why you would rebuild around Dame with like the assets that we currently have. And I think it's because Dame's unwilling to ask out, and like you can't trade him just in terms of like equity with the fan base if he hasn't asked to be traded.
Totally spot on there. John, I appreciate you for coming on such short notice. Hopefully we can get you on another podcast where we can go, we can talk even more and get, more ideas from you. But other than that, I really appreciate you joining. And I hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, I'd love to be back on in the future. Thanks for reaching out, and we'll talk soon. Go Blazers.
Sounds good. Go Blazers. Thanks, John.
Right, bye.
So next we have Jordan and we got Wade here. Let's get Jordan and Wade in here real quick.
I think I might actually have to step out now too, so sorry.
All right, go for it, Fawad. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Jordan, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
And how about you, Wade? Can you hear me? Uh-oh, we might not have Wade. Well, oh, wait.
Hey, I'm here.
There he is. How you doing, Wade?
I'm doing good. I had to unmute myself.
You're all good. So, feel free. Let's start off with Jordan, since he's on top of the list here. Jordan, feel free to talk about whatever you want. If you want to add on to what's already been said, go for it. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I was at work also before I saw that notification, and I was quite in shock. I mean, I posted quite a bit about it on my Facebook group, but not sure what the heck's going on right now, because if anything, you keep Norman Powell because he's the one guy who actually plays a lick of defense at the guard position. So if you're going to go around and build around Ant and sign him, you now have back to your problem of having Simons, CJ, and Dame who can't play defense. I mean, Simons has promise and he's a good young player, but he's ranked the worst defender in the whole league 3 straight seasons. And so having him next to CJ and Dame, it solves nothing. So I don't see how this move makes us better now or in the future, because like Foab said, it doesn't free up any money to go sign players. It gets us under the luxury tax, so we're not doing the repeater tax. But you have Justise Winslow still under contract for another season at I think $4.5 million. That Keon Johnson's under contract for 3 more years, I believe with the team option for his rookie deal. And then you got Eric Bledsoe, which again a $19 million contract that's only guaranteed just under was it $4 million. So I mean, on an ideal roster, like if the Blazers were in contention, Eric Bledsoe would have been a great guard to get, because we need defense, and he's given us fits over the years, and he would have been perfect in that role. But then he's again an undersized guard. So now you have back to the same problem, having 4 undersized guards, and you haven't upgraded the forward position. You haven't upgraded the center position. What are you doing with Yusuf Nurkic now? Are you going to sign him in the offseason? He almost didn't want to come back this season. So with the role, I think his role with Chauncey, he likes it. But, I mean, what's the direction? Because he's going to be a free agent. I'm sure there's going to be a team that will use his services. He's a good center. He's a top 12 center in this league, in my opinion. I'm not a big Nurkic fan per se, but he does like Portland. Dame likes him. And, the problem I'm seeing is it's like, man, you might as well make Dame interim GM, because it seems like whatever Dame wants, the Blazers do. And honestly, like Fall was saying too, or somebody was saying with the Thunder and the Nets and that situation, like the Thunder, honestly, like, as I'm watching them right now, they've done it correct. Like they've traded away their aging stars. They traded away Westbrook. They traded away Paul George. They went, hey, we are going full rebuild. We have like 20 first-round picks the next 4 years, and we have good young talent. Josh Giddey is amazing young kid, 19 years old, and he's doing things LeBron James hasn't done. It's just crazy. They have Lukas Dort, that's a good young player, and like I said, they've gone full direction. But you go, the Blazers, it's like, what are you doing? Like, you can't build around or rebuild around Dame. He doesn't want to be in a rebuild, and you don't have money to do anything to rebuild. So you don't have first round picks. You don't have money. Your only tradable asset is, Anthony Simons and Nasir Little, but Simons is a free agent at the end of the year, restricted, albeit, but still free agent. So you have so much question marks with this roster where it's like this move alone, if there might be other moves, but this move alone makes absolutely no sense. So unless you're trading CJ and there's a move coming, which again I don't see happening because it already came out that Cronin told CJ and Nurkic they won't be traded. That's per Jason Quick on an article. That he told them they will not be traded. So if that's the case and he's not bluffing, then there's nothing to look forward to going forward for this season and the offseason with no money. And like you guys have all said, no big name free agent has came here. Some guy said, well, Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony was out of this league. He was out of this league. No one wanted him. We gave him a chance, and he succeeded. And then thankfully for him, now he has a better chance to compete in LA. Well, which they say, but they're also under 500. But other than that, we've never got anybody all-star caliber to sign here and succeed. And so that alone gives me no hope whatsoever. And I try not to be too doom and gloom in my posts and, talking out loud and all that stuff. But this move made zero sense. I thought Norm should be traded, or I should say could be traded, but not for this move. Not for this move. And especially with rumors coming out that the Pelicans were interested in CJ McCollum. There was a rumor floated out that Josh Hart was available, Jackson Hayes was available. Those two alone for CJ, way better than this move. Not even close. A young center in Jackson Hayes and a 3-and-D do-it-all rebounding guard in Josh Hart. I would have loved that.
Yes.
Just CJ. We wouldn't have to need a pick, but instead you get a freaking 32-year-old Eric Bledsoe and a Justise Winslow barely plays 20 games a year. And this Keon Johnson, who, man, I guess if he's Dwayne Wade later down the road, okay, great. But he's 19-year-old rookie playing in the G League right now. It's not looking great.
You are, with at least for me, you're spot on. I mean, in my opinion, our best move was to keep Norm, capitalize on Ant's value right now, try to get someone for him, move CJ, and try to win now with that, what we did there. They went the exact opposite way. What do I know? I'm not a GM. I've only won 40 championships on 2K, though. So that's all I got to say about that. Jordan, we might cut back to you. I appreciate what you said. Let's get to Wade. Wade, how do you feel about this?
I'm actually a little bit more optimistic than most people. While it is a luxury tax move, I do agree with that. That's an obvious point. What people are discounting is what they got back. Eric Bledsoe is not the point of this trade. He's a disposable asset. We traded out, $80 million worth of cap total for 18? This is about future cap and future seasons, which is probably going to be allocated, like you said, to Ant or Little. But Keon Johnson, let me tell you, that kid is a athlete. His athleticism makes Ants look short. His vertical is 48 inches. He hails from Tennessee. He reminds me a little bit like a Ron Artest on the defense. He's super pesky. He's a point forward. 6'4". I mean, 6'5". I know they list him at 6'5". He's not really 6'5". He's more 6'4". But that dude is talented. He was actually considered a lottery pick, top 14 pick, and he slid down to 20 in last year's draft because he is, by all intents and purposes, a project. But his defense translates immediately to the NBA. It's not a question of years. We're talking if he gets court time this year, he's a perfect fit next to Dame. He's an extremely pesky interior defender with the ability to read passing lanes and rebound. I can't exercise it enough that it's not. Keon Johnson is a phenomenal athlete. And I'm hoping that it isn't a 3 or 4 year project. I'm hoping it's more of a see what we got this year and then next year maybe give him a little bit more of a role. But the Clippers weren't ever going to use him. Not really. His position was already filled. That's why he was in the G League. He was a project, plain and simple.
I mean, that's a fair point. And truly, I don't know much about him, so I can't like claim to.
I'm telling you, this guy is phenomenal. To go look some plays, some of his high school and some of his collegiate at Tennessee. His instincts in the lane, his hand quickness, his athleticism. He has a 48-inch vertical. 48-inch vertical.
Crazy.
I mean, this dude literally will jump out of the gym. He's a great rebounder. He's a defender. He can handle the ball. He's a slasher at the rim. He's not really an outside shooting guy. Not that he can't be. He just is not, his forte. He can definitely learn that.
Sure.
I just don't see it as such a bad trade. Rocco was never going to be with this team next year. It's a pointless thing to consider him a part of the trade.
I agree.
Now Powell, as much as I love Powell, his 4-year extension kicks in next year on a team that can go two directions. Either A, this is an indicator of a quick rebuild, so not a full rebuild, but we're talking like a year or two type of rebuild, because Ant and Little are ready now. Little's injured. Obviously, we won't have him until next season, but there's no reason to believe that those two aren't starters next year with Lillard, okay, and Nurk. So you only have one player really to fill a starting position, and I just don't see it as quite as negative. I do believe that if they make another massive trade, they're going all in. They trade CJ type of deal for a couple of big players, the whole to what was it, New Orleans?
Yeah.
That could very well still happen. Does that make it a title contender this year? Probably not, but maybe next year. But if they don't, then they've already set in motion going younger. And they already have those pieces. And I think if they whiff this year and whiff in free agency, and they'll have a high top 10 draft pick this year. I mean, because it's protected in the trade. Mm-hmm. They could very well go into the offseason if they don't get anybody, don't find any trades. Maybe it's a rebuild, full rebuild. But it gives them that flexibility to look at a possibility of contending now without misreading the ability to still do a rebuild. And I just think that's kind of what they're looking at. They're looking at that flexibility of they don't want to make the decision right this very second without all the pieces in place all the way through the draft. And that's kind of where I think they're looking at.
And
this is a lost season,
Yeah.
This is a lost season. Everybody's going to agree on that. Even if we make the playoffs, which is a big if we're one and done.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, Jordan, I want to check with you real quick to see if you have anything to say. But first off, I just want to say, Wade, the only issue I have is I'm afraid that if we were to have Ant at the 2, it's just going to end up being a repeat of Dame and CJ. And instead, it's going to be Dame and Ant.
Ant wouldn't be at the 2. Long term, Keon is actually... Yes. So you're talking this year, you can even plug Keon in at the 2 and see what you got.
Yeah.
And have Ant at the 1. And I think that combo, because Keon's specialty is defense.
Yeah.
Ant and Lillard, love them both. Not great defenders.
No.
And never have been, probably never will be because of their body type. Keon, on the other hand, 100% can play a shooting guard role with a knack for defense.
Jordan, do you have anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, and I know a little bit about Keon Johnson. I've watched a lot of college basketball, and it's not wrong what he's saying right now. It's just the problem is if you're going to go and see what you have in Keon Johnson and think he's going to be something good, it's not going to translate right away. I mean, I compare him to Greg Brown as far as athleticism goes. Greg Brown's obviously 6'9", can jump out the building. Keon can as well, but he can't. His offense is so raw. He's 26 6% 3-point shooter in college. Just not a great offensive player. He was SEC all-freshman team. So again, he's young, he's raw, he has a lot of potential to be decent. And that's pretty much a first-round pick we got. So I know we didn't get one per se, but he was the 21st pick, and he could have been the top 14 pick, like you said. But so that is what that was with a first-round pick. So it's just right now when Dame's going to be 32 years old and CJ's in his 30s, Nurkic is 28. What is the direction? If you're going to wait for Keon Johnson, then you might as well all hands on deck. Throw in your cards. You're trading CJ. You're trading Dame. You're not waiting for Nurkic. You're trading him now. You're getting what you can now to a contender. You're trading, Ben McLemore, who a contender will love his shooting on their team right now, the way he's shooting this season. Yeah. You are going all in rebuild. But just to sit here and tinker and be like, well, we want to bring back Ant. Well, if we want to bring back Ant, we're going to have to, shed a little bit of money so we don't go into repeater tax. Well, okay, you do that. Okay, then you got Nasir Little. Nasir Little, albeit is a small forward, he's actually best bet as a shooting guard. He's 6'5". He's not 6'8", 6'9". He's actually 6'5". So you have all of these. Let's just say you pencil those guys in. You're penciling Ant at the 1. You're penciling, what should have been Norman Powell, but you're penciling CJ at the 2. You got Ant at the 3, and then whoever's your 4, I don't know now. Larry Nance, he's on a contract again. Larry Nance, who's your center then? If you're not bringing back Nurkic, we don't have a center on the roster now. Cody Zeller's hurt for the rest of the year. So I just don't know what the heck is going on. And, to me, the reason why this trade looks so bad, Gary Trent Jr. is absolutely destroying it for Toronto right now. And 23 years old. How fun would it have been to have Ant Simons, Gary Trent Jr., Nasir Little, Greg Brown, whoever you want to plug in at center, young guy, that would have been a fun team to build around, and you would have got crap ton for Damian Lillard to add to that. You would have got a lot for CJ McCollum to add to that. You could have got stuff from Nurkic to add to that. But if you're either going one side or the other, and right now it's like they're still divided. Like Cronin still doesn't know what he's doing. And that's what is kind of frustrating to me, is because Jody Allen, I don't think she knows anything about basketball whatsoever. She's relying on outside sources. And it's kind of scary to me that, you had McGowan step down. You had Olshey fired. You had the director of player personnel step down as well. I can't blanking on my name right now, but he stepped down. So I just don't know right now the state of the organization currently with Jody as owner. I just have zero faith in them right now until they prove me wrong. If they prove me wrong, I will come on your next podcast after the deadline and eat crow. I just don't see anything happening. And, CJ has his winery, his baby's here, his family. I just feel like it's like a feel-good story where it's like, oh, we're not going to trade them. We'd look bad. We'd look bad to the CJ, and, Dame wants CJ and all this stuff. It's like, you guys, it's a business. You're trying to win basketball games here. Okay, bring me back the Jailblazers. Bring me back guys that are assholes and that win games. That's what I want. I don't care what they do off the court as long as they're not getting arrested. To be honest with you, that's what I want. I just want to win basketball games.
Jordan, Wade, I appreciate both of you guys joining. Hopefully we can get you guys on another podcast and we can go in depth even more with, more time frame so it doesn't feel so short and compact. But I appreciate both of you guys for coming out tonight. Feel free to stay in if you guys want to stay in and listen. If not, I hope you guys both have a good night. And thanks for coming.
I appreciate having me. Have a good night.
Okay. Hey, hold the phone. Did I just notice Mike joined the party? Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing terrible. How are you doing?
It's so good to hear from you, man. I haven't heard from you in a while. You're a little late to the party, but hey, it's better late than never. Speaking of late, we've got our last two. Certainly appreciate both of you guys for waiting. Let me get you guys in here real quick. We've got Owen, who is another part of the Point 9 podcast. We've got Owen here, and we've also got Tyler. Can you guys both hear me?
Yeah, what's going on, man?
Yep.
What's up?
Glad you guys are both here. Mike, I'm glad you're here. So let's get into this. Owen, let's start off with you. Go for it.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of the trade, to be honest with you. Wade honestly made a lot of really good points. You know, I'm also a huge fan of college basketball. I know a little bit about Keon, and he is a really raw athlete, a lot of raw talent and potential that you kind of just gotta uncover. But the trade just sucks, man. And the only good part about the trade, and it's a term that we've been throwing around a lot this podcast, is because of the luxury tax. And for those who are listening who don't maybe know what that means, I know Adam talked about earlier, he didn't really understand what that meant. Luxury tax is basically an incremental tax that owners have to pay if the team goes over the salary cap. So like the higher the overall salary cap that they go, the higher the annual taxes. And it's obviously, it affects some owners, and it honestly affects more so small market teams than any other, which makes it even harder for us to get players because we don't have money because we paid in taxes. And so I think that this trade straight up just is kind of whack. We got rid of two really good perimeter players, defensive wise, and a guy in Norman Powell who is averaging 18 and a half a game on 46% shooting and 40% from 3-point range. I like the ideal wingman for a guy like Dame, a guy that we've been waiting to have, a player that I think we've been waiting to have with Dame for such a long time, ever since he really stepped into being the top dog on the team. And it sucks to give him away for Eric Bledsoe, who's probably going to get bought out, for Justise Winslow, who put in a little bit of solid minutes, honestly, for the Clippers. And obviously with Chauncey being our coach and with him, formerly being the assistant coach for the Clippers, I'm sure he put in a good word and had to be somewhat involved with this trade. And then obviously with Keon being just a raw athlete. But I 100% agree with the previous statement of Norman is so much better than a second round pick. Like him by himself is a first round at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know how Cronin got away with not getting a first round pick. I don't know. I don't see the point in the trade. I don't see really a future with the trade. I think if we were focused on the future, we would never have traded Gary Trent, and we would have been able to ride off of Ant, Little, and Trent. Because at this point, it just feels like we traded Trent for Eric Bledsoe, and that's a horrible takeaway because Gary Trent is balling right now. And yeah, I don't see where this is going. I think our best trade asset, honestly, right now is probably Nurk. I mean, 7 out of the last 11 games, he's had a double-double, and he's balling right now. I think Nurk's time in Portland, honestly, is coming to an end, and I think we could get rid of him now while the stock on him is somewhat high, and at least everyone in the league knows that he's playing well right now. I mean, I think we could get some value off of him, but then it brings up the conflict of, not really having a big man. So that's kind of the coin flip that we would have to trade. We'd have to trade to get, a center who is at least, as good, if not maybe just a tiny bit better. But it's such a hard situation, but the trade as a whole, I'm not a fan of at all.
You're with a lot of us.
Yeah.
Before I throw it to Tyler, to make this day even more weird, the game going on right now, our leading scorer is Tony Snell.
So,
what is going on?
God, bro, like that. Honestly, that just makes me so sad. Like we're at a point now because Dame's hurt, and with all the Also, by the way, we're winning. Second of all, Tony Snell is our leading scorer. This sucks. This really sucks.
So, Tyler, you've waited the longest out of everybody now. Go for it. Let us know how you feel.
Yeah, so I was at work and I cannot have my phone on me when I'm working. So imagine my surprise when I just checked my phone and saw this notification. I was just honestly in shock. I like Keon Johnson. He does have some potential, like everybody else has said, extremely raw athlete. He does have a pretty good amount of upside from what I've seen. But the trade, it just doesn't make sense. Like, we could have, honestly, I don't know what we could have done with Rocco. I guess the Jazz were interested. Who knows what we could have gotten from them? We'll never know. Norm, honestly, I like Norm, but I was fully expecting him to get traded. Where, obviously, I didn't know where. The Clippers, I guess we're talking about getting him. But I just don't really see like where this team is going, to be honest. I'm going to bed praying every night for good luck in the lottery at this point.
On God, seriously.
Like, I mean, I'm hoping for Paulo. I don't know if I think we're only 2 losses out of the 5th pick right now, or the 5th highest position in the draft lottery. Page. Yeah, like I think we're only 2 losses out of the 5th spot. So
yes.
I mean, we're just gonna have to hope and pray that we kind of draw a little luck with that. But honestly, it's just it doesn't make sense to me. I think we can throw a Ben Simmons trade out the window at this point. It seems like a Harden for Simmons is going to happen, and I don't know if CJ gets shipped off, to be honest, either. I don't know.
You know what drives me crazy about the whole Philly situation is they got offered very reasonable trades, and they turned them all down. And if by some miracle Morey gets his way and gets a player like Harden or Lillard or something like, a player like that, it's going to drive me crazy that we sent off these players for the players we got, and he's been stubborn all year long and turned down trades that to me were well worth the trade. And it's just
exactly like if Morey somehow pulls off a Harden trade, I think you should just give him exec of the year, to be honest. He's waited this entire thing out, and he's gotten good offers too that he's turned down.
Exactly.
He's gotten extremely good offers. And I mean, a few months ago, they were looking at getting Malcolm Brogdon for Simmons, and now there might be a bidding war for him. Like, I don't know. That's just crazy to me.
If I could touch on that point real quick, I think if Harden goes, I know we're not obviously talking about it, but I think if Harden goes to Philly, I think that speaks more about the Brooklyn Nets as an organization than Philly, because that would by far be the biggest bust of a big 3 in NBA history if this whole situation with what's been going on, obviously with Kyrie over the past couple months, with Kevin Durant, playing at an MVP level and then getting hurt, and now James Harden's kind of having to step in and carry the load again. If James Harden leaves, then there's something bigger going on with the Nets, because they have everything that they could possibly ever ask for to contend. And if it's going this route, then it's just going to be it'll be the biggest bust of a super team, or just a team of like a big 3 that the league has ever seen.
So before I throw it to Mike, I just want to get your guys' quick opinion on this. Do you think Ben Simmons fits? I know this is a Blazer podcast, but do you think he fits with Brooklyn? No, he doesn't, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. The only way I could imagine is, Kyrie. If Kyrie's still even there, who knows what's going to happen with him? Kyrie taking the ball up, and then them trying to use Simmons in like kind of how the Nuggets use Jokic in like a playmaking from the post type of way. But I just don't see that happening with Kevin Durant and Kyrie on the team. So
the thing that sucks about Ben Simmons is like he doesn't really fit on any team, especially as a point guard. Like he's not. He especially for today's league and how the game is played, spacing out the floor and being able to shoot the 3 ball, he does not do at all. He hardly shoots the ball, period. Like he doesn't fit that at all. And even as a forward, he doesn't fit that at all. Like they have players and talent there that I would much rather see, like, Claxton and, even a guy like Blake Griffin, and James Johnson coming off the bench. He has experience. Paul Millsap, I know he has experience too. Like these guys who have experience were still solid, 12 to 13 minute a game players. Like he doesn't fit. He just doesn't.
Yeah. So you guys, Tyler, Owen, feel free to stay if you guys want to respond to what Mike has to say. If you guys want to leave, go for it. Either way, I appreciate both of you guys joining. Like I said, you can stay, and if you want to respond to what Mike has to say, go for it. Mike, let's hear what you got, bro. It's your mic. Go for it.
Jesus Christ, man. I was having dinner. It was kind of like 8 p.m. for me at the time the Woj bomb come out. And I was just eating dinner with a couple of friends, and randomly I got a text from a friend who is a Raptors fan, and he basically said, "You guys did it. You guys finally did a trade." And then he spammed laughing emojis, and I was like, "Oh no." Then I waited a while because I thought he was trolling about the trade, because the Blazers never do a trade. So I waited a while, had dinner, had some beers, and then I go on Twitter, and then I see the shock. I started reading the tweet, and I saw Eric Bledsoe, Justise Winslow, and Keon Walker, right? Um, and I was like thinking, oh, those are good pickups. Who did we trade? Larry Nance? And then I read Norman Powell, and I'm like, oh no. And then added to that, I see Robert Covington. Oh, God no. And then then it just sank to me because then I went instantly on a rant on every Blazer Discord I'm at, because some people say it's not a bad trade, but I prefer not to think of it as a Rocco Norman deal. I'm looking more at what we traded for Rocco and what we traded for Norman, because I know that's unfair because we changed GMs, but we gotta think about this because we traded for Rocco like a year and a half ago, and we traded for Norman a year ago. So I can definitely make the comparison for what we traded then and what we got now. And what we traded then was 2 first-round picks for Robert Covington, and we traded Gary Trent for and Rodney Hood, but mostly Gary Trent for Norman Powell. And is there any world where you trade Gary Trent and 2 first-round picks for Eric Bledsoe, Justise Winslow, and Keon? Absolute no world that happens. And you can argue like the guys didn't know, but it's been literally 1 year since we got those players, and we've already dumped them for a buyout contract, a 19-year-old player, and a solid bench player. I like Justice, don't get me wrong. He was one of my favorites a few years ago, but we just traded Norman Powell and Robert Covington. I still can't fathom the logic behind the trade. As I said before, I still think it's a three team trade, and it didn't fit the tweet. But no, that dream is over right now. I just I still can't understand the logic behind it. I don't know if there's something being planned other than this, but right now as it stands, it's a horrible trade in my opinion.
Well, and let me add just a little bit to that. Like you said, we traded 2 firsts for Rocco, and we traded Trent and Hood for Powell.
Yeah.
It's not like Norman Powell wasn't good for us. So, for us to give him up for what we got in return, that hurts worse. We can compare that. Rocco wasn't as good for us as we thought he would be. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't good. So, obviously his value is going to drop. So there's probably no way we could get 2 first rounds for him. But Powell was great for us and one of the most consistent players for us. And to lose out on value like we did on Powell is what really hurts.
Yeah, well, he's averaging 18 points as the third option.
Yeah,
and not
out of position.
And not just the third option, the third guard. Because that's important. Because Dame gotta get 3-point shots. CJ gotta get 3-point shots. What 3-point shots are left for Norman? And he still gets 18 points a game. Even though CJ and Dame they kind of on and off the court, that's still very impressive numbers. And what do you get in return for him? I'm not even questioning Rocco here because in my head, I don't know if I'm delusional or not, but in my head, we just give Norman Powell in this trade and it would still be technically a bad trade.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And we still add an all defensive caliber player, which has not been, let's be honest, has not been on that level on the defensive side of the ball. But he has been way better shooting the free ball. He even got a game winner this season.
Yep.
And his defense has been looking slightly better towards these last couple of months. So yeah, as I said, yeah, if even just Norman Powell would look like a bad trade for the Blazers, adding Robert Covington, which is a quality player in any NBA team, man, it's killing it's killing me inside for sure.
Tyler, do you have anything you want to throw in here before we wrap it up?
I was just gonna agree with Mike. Every NBA team could use a player like Rocco. I know he's been struggling, but Rocco is a player you can plug into any system, any team, and he'll get the job done. So I just think, I mean, we definitely could have waited a little bit and kind of like once the trade deadline heated up, you're gonna have teams panicking, and I don't know, what we could have gotten for him. Maybe it wasn't a first, but I definitely think we could have gotten a better return if we did like an individual trade for each of those two players rather than packaging them together. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, no, you both are spot on. Rocco is definitely a player that could fit on any team, and any team would love to have him. And
one of the best 3-and-Ds in the league.
Any team would love to have him for a second-round pick because that's essentially what we traded him for.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Mike, do you have anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Maybe I want to add something, but I don't even want to add something. And just like to add a question to the air. What is Dame thinking about this? Did this trade go through Dame?
They said it did. They said he was okay with it. Who knows if that's a true report or not? But from the reports we've seen, he said that he was okay with it.
That just makes me think that something bigger is happening, or that it's just not true. Because
it's one of those two. 100%.
Because there's no way he looks at that and is like, yeah, I'm fine trading two of our best starting players for essentially two bench players and an extremely raw rookie. Like, the second round pick pretty much has no value to us.
Yeah,
that's probably. I wouldn't be surprised if we package that off with something in the future. To be honest,
very true.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. Dame must know something that none of us know, because if that report is true,
if he vetoes that trade, my lord, either James Harden is coming or Dame is leaving. It's one of the two.
Last year when Harden was still on the Rockets, I don't know how true it was, but I saw multiple reports. I mean, it's not Cronin, but I saw multiple reports that they asked for CJ, Gary Trent, Little, and like 2 firsts for Harden.
Yeah.
Like, imagine we would have done that. We would, I think, be in a 10 times better position than we are right now. But obviously, hindsight's 20/20, so you can't get too mad about that. But still,
yeah, it's gonna be like I said a little bit earlier, it's gonna definitely be a bumpy road this year, the rest of the season, and I mean, who knows what's gonna happen?
It's not even a road anymore.
You're right. It's not a road.
It was a bumpy road before. Now it's like a dirt way.
With a couple potholes and an alligator on the side trying to eat you. Tyler, I appreciate you coming out short notice. Spending time with us, waiting, to the last person. I appreciate it. I hope to get you on another podcast and spend some more time talking with you.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Just hit me up again, and if I'm free, I'll definitely love to come on again.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, Mike. It's always good to hear from you. I'm glad you had some energy to get in here and talk.
Yes, sir.
You always bring the funny stuff when you come in, so I appreciate it.
The comedy here.
That's pretty much what the Blazers are turning into at this point. So
they're funnier than me right now.
But other than that, I appreciate you coming out. Everybody that's listening, feel free to send us messages, anything you want, telling us how you guys feel. It's a rough night. Hopefully it gets better. Other than that, I hope everybody has a great night. And as always, Rip City, baby.
Let's go.